Overglaze decoration. Overglaze enamelling or on-glaze decoration is a method of decorating pottery, most often porcelain, where the colored decoration is applied on top of the already fired and glazed surface, and then fixed in a second firing at a relatively low temperature, often in a muffle kiln. It is often described as producing enamelled decoration. The colors fuse onto the glaze, so the decoration becomes durable. This decorative firing is usually done at a lower temperature, which allows for a more varied and vidid palette of colors, using pigments which will not color correctly at the high temperature necessary to fire the porcelain body. Historically, a relatively narrow range of colors could be achieved with underglaze decoration, where the colored pattern is applied before glazing, notably the cobalt blue of blue and white porcelain. Many historical styles, for example Minai ware, Imari ware, Chinese Dukai, and Wukai, combine the two types of decoration. In such cases, the first firing for the body, underglaze decoration, and glaze is followed by the second firing after the overglaze enamels have been applied. The technique essentially uses powdered glass mixed with colored pigments, and is the application of vitreous enamel to pottery. Enameled glass is very similar but on glass. Both these latter two are essentially painting techniques, and have been since they began. In contrast, on metal painting and enamel arrived very late, long after techniques such as cloisonné, where thin wires are applied to form raised barriers, which contain areas of, subsequently applied, enamel, and champlef, where the metal surface is sunk to form areas where the enamel is poured. Enamel was used in jewelry, applied to metal, from very early on. There are examples in the tomb of Tutankhamun of circa 1325 BC. Enamel was also used to decorate glass by the time of the Roman Empire. Applied to pottery, it is first seen in Persian Minai ware from the late 12th century, using a group of 7 main colors. Presumably the potters learnt the technique from glassmakers. Slightly later it appeared in Chinese ceramics and Sizu stoneware from as early as the 13th century, with use on porcelain following within a century, though it did not become predominant until later, and the full possibilities were not realized until the 17th century. Some techniques use thin metal leaf, including Minai ware, as well as the more usual pigments, which are typically applied in a liquid or paste form, painted by brush, or using stencils or transfer printing. The technique was also developing in European porcelain and some faience during the 18th century, and there appears to have been some influence in both directions between Asia and Europe. From about 1770 to the mid-20th century, it was the dominant decorative technique in expensive pottery, mostly porcelain, made in Europe, East Asia, and, to a lesser extent, North America. In 18th century England, where the technique was developed, the earliest forms of transfer printing on pottery, for example by Sadler and Green in Liverpool, were overglaze, although by the end of the century it was normal to print as underglaze. Today overglaze decoration is much less commonly used, other than in traditionalist wares, as the range of colors available in underglaze has greatly expanded. The kiln used for the second firing is usually called a muffle kiln in Europe. Like other types of muffle furnaces, the design isolates the objects from the flames producing the heat. With electricity this is not so important. For historical overglaze enamels the kiln was generally far smaller than that for the main firing, and produced firing temperatures in the approximate range of 750 to 950 degrees Celsius, depending on the colors used. Typically, wares were fired for between 5 and 12 hours and then cooled over 12 hours.